You guys have done a variety of photography. And Jose, I love your music photography specifically. It's so cool when there's so many photographers shooting one concert, right? But then, you just get that one image that, oh, wow, that was from that same show. That's really cool looking. So in a space that traditionally has been pretty, not crowded, but that's a thing that people do. Take pictures of people on stage. What was your attitude towards that? And like, okay, how can I make my picture stand out? Were there things that you did in the beginning to challenge yourself, or was it just going to festival after festival after festival?
Yeah, I think the difference, thank you so much for the comment, by the way. I think the difference that I can perceive between my photography is I'm actually a big fan of a lot of the music that I shoot, and I listen to a ton of music. And whenever, a person asks me, how can I become better at music photography? It's like, get to know the music that you'll be shooting. Like anytime I go to shoot a festival, first thing I do is if there are any artists that I don't know on the bill, I'll go and listen to them. And there are so many more things you can kind of anticipate when you know a song and when the drop is coming and the moment's going to come and there's a big crescendo or something and the artist is going to do something cool, then you'll be ready for it. And otherwise, it's the one thing that I really love about music photography. It's not only about how prepared you are, but there's also a lot of luck involved because, the lighting is always moving around. The artist is always moving around. You never know what's going to happen. So you kind of have to really be on your toes. And like you said, sometimes there'll be 50 people in the pit and you're all trying to like move around and get that perfect angle. But, the artist will choose one side and you're like, and you might just be screwed. Yeah. And then, you might have the wrong lens on. So there's a lot of elements that come together that I think a lot of people don't really think about when looking at music photography. Yeah. But if there's any moment where I can translate, their artistry into a single image, then that to me is, like my job well done. So I just try to match the intensity of their art to what I'm creating at the moment. And I think being a big fan of the music is a part of it.
Are you someone, when you're in those situations, do you kind of spray and pray, or are you someone who literally just is still taking single pictures and you wait for the moment? Or are you shooting, the 15 frames per second, or how?
It depends on the artist and the festival and kind of like my mood going in. There are people who are just way more active and you never know what's going to happen. So for example, like a Travis Scott, he's going to come out and he's going to jump and there's going to be pyro and there's going to be smoke and you never know, So for those kind of instances, you kind of want to just shoot as much as you can and review later.
And how many, the A7R4, is that what we're using, or 3? R3. How many pictures can that take per second
I'm
without
not sure.
blacking out?
3 maybe? 30?
No, the R3 stops at isn't it 11 or 12?
No, it's more than that.
More than that?
Yeah. It's a little more. I want to say
decent.
No, it's good. It's never failed me. No.
It's electrons.
I will say this: the A9. I shot with the A9 for a bunch of festivals, and having the no blackout was a game changer at the time. It was crazy to just not see the shutter and continuously see what is going on.
Oh, totally.
That was really, really cool. So
can I say something about the way you shoot shows?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Please. So
let me hear.
One of the things I love about your style and how you do get these unique shots is like you're not somebody who's married to the pit because you're so like into the music that you actually you're not like, oh, I'm going here to shoot. You're like, I'm going to a show and I'm going to come out with some beautiful images.
Yeah.
So like you'll be in the back, you'll be in the dead center of the crowd. You don't like just take it as an opportunity to make photos. You take it as an immersive opportunity to like be in the music. And I think that's really reflected in your work.
Yeah, I love that.
Because you get different angles than like the typical person that's just snapping away and like solely focused on the image.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. And I think that also goes back to just being a fan of the music and being passionate about it. A lot of the photographers I know, they'll be in the pit for, 1-2 songs and be like, oh, I got my shot. And, they'll go edit right away because for a lot of these festivals, it's kind of like not the best photos who gets it to them first because they need to go out.
Right.
And a lot of the times I'm like, yeah, but I'm really here to enjoy this set, So I'll shoot, I'll get in the crowd. And then when the crowd sees you as a photographer that you're like vibing with the music and you know the lyrics too. And then you're just kind of like one of them and you're like, oh wow, this guy's really cool. So a lot of times they'll like make more way for me to get in between them.
Or have you guys ever had the issue of an artist using your picture or a model using your picture and like not tagging?
Oh, all the time.
And like how
That's what I had for breakfast.
like,
today, yeah. This happened just now.
like what is, I mean, I understand like if someone pays you your rate to take pictures, like that's their picture, they paid for it. But there's so many instances where it is like, oh, you didn't pay for that, or oh, this was a favor, or oh, this is kind of what's expected. And then so asking, I guess it's very common. So you kind of, I guess, what, just move on with your life, or how do you handle?
I feel like at a certain point, the stress that comes from worrying about that stuff far overweighs the,
that's a good way to look at it.
But a lot of times it's like, some really big artists, if they tagged you, that could give you a lot of opportunities. Yeah. So it's kind of sucks when that happens, but I kind of just roll with the punches, and I'm here to make the art and just keep going.
Definitely.
Yeah, to me, anytime new technology emerges, there's new etiquette, right? And a lot of times, especially like the more famous somebody is, they're separated from you by many layers of publicists and agencies, and the content flow is like very complex. So by the time they get it, they don't, a lot of times they don't even know who shot it. And my favorite type of people of celebrity note are the ones who are willing to correct that error, or or if they, if they post something and there's no credit, and a bunch of if somebody posted one of his photos, he has a very loyal base of people who love his work that would be like,
spam.
Yeah, this is Jose's photo. And a lot of those artists will, like, good on them, they'll be like, it's so easy to just edit and put it in there. So I think, anytime there's new technology, there's new etiquette, and it's like the community kind of defines what is the right thing to do.
Right.
For us, I try to tag everybody involved to a reasonable degree.
Yeah.
Like, I always want people getting their credit. Like, if someone's doing makeup for one of my shoots, I want other people to know who did that makeup. And that goes back a little bit to that, let's work together, let's not work in isolation and try to step on each other to get to the top.
Totally.
Let's share knowledge, share information. There's more power in numbers together. So.
100%. Dave, my favorite genre of your pictures are, maybe it's because I live in New York, but again, it's you out there, rainy vibes, New York, misty, rainy. It's just vibes.
Yeah.
Like it's vibes. And do you, in terms of like genres of your photography, there's this weird separation, and I feel it all the time, where it's like doing it for the art, and then, I need to like pay bills, right? And I've seen you kind of like fuse those things, and that I saw that like Vibey Razor ad you did. Oh yeah. Like that was sick. Was sick. So how do you balance that? Because sometimes those pictures that make people follow you, that make, oh my gosh, that is so unique, that's sometimes not necessarily what people are paying for.
Right.
How have you kind of found that balance? And then are those conversations you have with brands of like, listen, this is my style of picture. Yes. If you want that product, it's going to have to be in there my way. Right.
So I used to work internally in an agency, BBDO, and I loved that job. It was awesome. It gave me a really good understanding of the brand side and the client and the agency side of things, like what conversations are happening in those rooms. What the client is looking for. So when I was able to make the leap to freelance, like more on the, personal creative side, I had a huge advantage of knowing how to talk to clients, what they're looking for, how to explain my vision in a way that, like, what I tell younger creatives and people like trying to break into the industry is like, everybody has a job to do. If you can make their job easier, like, they are going to come back again and again and again, because everybody wants a little bit off their plate. So for me, if I come with a more of a creative vision, like for the Razor ad that you're speaking of,
it's less work for them.
On the first call, I'm already like, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I want to do. And they're like, oh great, well, like, as long as that touches on our brief, then, we trust you. And the other advantage is that I work for myself, and when you're an outside entity, like, you get a lot more, in my experience, creative control. So if you're in an agency, there's a whole system that's working, right? And you have to be like a part of that. You're a cog in a much bigger machine. So you get a lot less say about what the machine is going to do. But when you're an independent creative and a brand has come to you because they want access to your audience, like you're the person that they're going to trust to say, here's what's going to work for this project. So that being said, I get a tremendous amount of creative freedom, and that's something I'm really grateful for. In terms of making sure that my commercial work and my personal work can kind of live side by side, I think that's a very interesting line to tread, but the way I try to do it is like, I've spent years and years and years developing this aesthetic, right? And it's very like dark mode, like neon lights, rain, weather, just like very cinematic looking.
Yeah.
And that's just a layer that I can really add to almost anything. Like, I did a half year's worth of content for Honda social media. And it's like, they let me play with that. We took a car and like drove it down a Brooklyn street that had the fire hydrant spraying all over and like people running through it. And so that created this like environment of rain that because of my personal work exploring street photography, I know exactly what to do in that scenario to make those drops like pop out and stand, we have the headlight shining through it. And you can create these cinematic moments. The reason I love my personal work and my street photography is because it's like improv jazz or something, right? You're thrown out into a situation where you
never know what you're going to get.
You have all these overlapping variables, and a decisive moment is kind of lies at the confluence of these different variables. And how can you, with your eye, kind of pinpoint down this intersection of variables in a way that is visually compelling and tells a story? And so every time I'm doing street photography, I'm just doing that for fun. So by the time I get into a shoot and there's all this stuff going on and all these variables coming up, it's like freestyling. I'm ready.
Yeah, you're ready for it.